I don't feel sorry for that guy because he shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You don't steal credit for someone else's work and then discredit them after the fact to hide the fact that you're such a shitty person. But she got her revenge. she totally got her revenge afterwards.
Yeah. I think that would make her name Karma for a moment.
No, it's called, look, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I think we can all agree Psychonauts, and that's like the second brain you go through in the game. So I'm not that far. I'm in the third brain you go through, or at least for me, the third brain I'm going through, which is I'm helping Nick John Smith by going to the brain truck to the.
How generic can you get?
Well, he's the mailroom guy. He's the mailroom guy who's had his brain. His brain was obliterated by, like, I don't know what happened. I personally think that the mole that Nick John Smith ran up on him, and the mole uses like a brain drain to destroy his brain. So now he's basically like a vegetable just wandering around the mailroom. So Raz goes to Otto's brain trust, I think it's called. It's basically like this bank where all these people who signed NDAs brains are located, and he gets a brain that wasn't officially sanctioned, but there's not enough paperwork for it, and you have to give it to Nick John Smith. But in doing this, you also like have to go into that brain and help it deal with its own issues. So I'm not that far in the game. I'm only like, I've maybe scratched the first 15, 20, not even 20, like 15% of it. But what I've played of it, I've enjoyed it. So yeah, the original Psychonauts is great. Psychonauts 2, I'm not that far into it, but I mean, basically, Psychonauts 2 is like every issue, like a lot of
it's already looking like a hit.
Well, I don't know about sales-wise, but all the issues I had with the first Psychonauts, like how the platforming was a little, in some sections was a little janky. They fixed that in this one. They made, they kind of nerfed the hover, the levitation.
Yeah.
They nerfed it, which I'm not cool with. I don't like how they nerfed it. But, you know.
I was going to say, did they nerf it that badly?
In the original game, you could hover indefinitely. And you could get like an upgrade for your levitation bubble that you could basically bounce on water for a short period of time using it. This game, you can levitate for a certain amount of time unless you hit like an updraft or something, and then you can levitate for much longer, as long as you're in the updraft or the wind column or whatever. And your levitation bubble,
as long as you are able to fly.
Yeah, as long as it's interacting with that element that's uplifting it or moving your levitation bubble. I mean, there's a reason for this design. That's my only real gripe with the game, is that they kind of nerfed some of the past abilities. Like, lighting shit on fire in the first game was like a death sentence for almost everything. In this game, it's good for certain enemies. Other enemies are immune to it, or it does negligible amounts of damage. So, that's kind of a flaw.
I was going to say, how many elements did they introduce? 2 or 4?
You mean in the first game, or what?
Overall? As in going from number 1 to number 2, since it seems like you got at least 3 elements in the first one.
No, you only had one element in the first one. You had pyrokinesis, which is like lighting shit on fire. You also had telekinesis, which is picking up stuff and throwing it. There's what else did you have? You had levitation, where you could levitate. You had the ability to enter people's minds. You really didn't have a lot of psychic abilities in the first game. But those ones that you did have, you could do a lot of stuff with them. This game, they give you a lot more psychic abilities. Like, eventually you'll get stasis, where you can freeze stuff. What else? Bombs. You get the ability to lob bombs at people. You get like a linking ideas but really it's like a grappling hook thing mechanic. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff, and all of these you can also use in combat as well. So that's kind of cool. But without much ado, before we go any further, let's have everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll dive right into it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all ages, to the BS Busters midweek podcast for the very first day of September.
That's right. That's right.
I'm Joey Lemon Star. Oh, brother. I just had to hear some bad news. I had to hear some weird news. But otherwise, I'm actually more interested in Psychonauts.
All right. Kanoshi?
This is Kanoshi Abominito. Near the end of the first Psychonauts game, and then going to continue the second one.
Yeah. I will say this much: the first Psychonauts, the end boss battle, where you have to go inside of it's like a prolonged segment, and there's a point where you have to use telekinesis in order to basically put your brain into a brain tank, which is Oleander's big thing, is that he wanted to create a brain tank, which is kind of interesting. Very interesting procedure, because Raz is hit with one of the brain bombs, which makes you sneeze your brain out of your nose, which is biologically impossible. But in Psychonauts, you can do shit like that. I mean, Ford Cruller's threat, if you mess with him in one of the dream sequences where you learn a new ability in the game, is don't mess with me, kid, or I'll make your head explode.
Well, he blew his brain out.
He can do that. Ford Cruller is one of the most powerful psychics the Psychonauts ever. I think he's one of the founders of the Psychonauts. It's really, really powerful. So powerful that when the accident that fractured his mind into different parts of his psyche should have killed him, it didn't. It just fractured him into different parts of himself. Which tells you how strong he is psychically speaking. Anyway, let's keep it moving. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters, and tonight we're talking a lot of topics. We're going to be going over. Thank goodness for once we don't have to talk about Activision Blizzard, but except maybe tangentially and as an example. So the topics for tonight are underappreciated comic book characters that deserve a game. The PS5 redesign is already effing up. Starfield is an Xbox and PC exclusive, and no one is surprised except Sony fans. More Psychonauts talk. And finally, apparently there's a rumor that EA is making a SWTOR sequel, so we'll talk about that. And unpopular opinions and wrap it up. Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, SWTOR came out in 2013?
Yeah, but keep in mind, this is the same company that was happy of their pride and accomplishments.
Sorry, it came out in 2011.
Yeah. So close to 10 years. But yeah, as I said, this is coming from the company that's proud of their pride and accomplishments.
That is true. But we can still hope for better.
This is going to be one weird trip.
I mean, like at this point, I wouldn't be against a SWTOR sequel, but that's a topic for later on in the cast. So the first topic, underappreciated comic book characters that deserve a game. So we've had Batman video games, we've had Spider-Man video games, we've even had some shitty Superman video games.
Thank you for reminding me of one of those that swiftly came to mind.
Yeah, most of the Superman video games are terrible. The only video game that I've played that had Superman in it that wasn't a steaming pile of dog shit was Lego Batman 2.
Yeah.
Lego Batman 2 is pretty good, and Superman is in it. Superman's an integral character in that game, and he's actually pretty good. So, but who wants to go first? Who has some type of comic book character that they feel like, man, this character, no one gives them any love. They need a video game about them.
That's a bit hard considering how some of these comics have been. I mean, how some of these comic book characters have been given movie shots. But if I could at least give one shot of sorts to see how it would work, give Shazam a shot.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm reaching out there because, well, I'm trying to think of what characters hasn't been in a into a game that probably hasn't had a big hit in the movie theaters. So I took a shot with Shazam. So you
I
probably
don't know.
could
I don't.
reach even further.
I guess the Wonder Woman game. I haven't seen one of those.
Yeah.
She's been in games, so you could do Wonder Woman.
I mean, she's been like a side character because those two Injustice games, that Justice League Fighting Force for America for the SNES and Sega Genesis back in the day. I don't know. Those are still kind of big characters. Because I mean, Aquaman had a game in the 6th gen. That game was terrible. Battle for Atlantis.
Oh,
the golden. They created.
That was nearly as terrible as Superman 64.
I think it was worse because at least Superman 64 had an excuse to be bad because it was on the N64 and you just weren't gonna get a good Superman game back then. But Aquaman Battle for Atlantis had zero excuse for being that bad, like zero. But anyway,
dang.
Because you have to remember, in the 6th gen, we were starting to get good licensed superhero video games. Like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Sorry, based on the Sam Raimi film. Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Yeah.
You were getting good licensed shit in the 6th gen. So, there was no excuse for that game to be that bad. Okay, I got one for you. Heathcliff, the game. The whole point of the game is Heathcliff going around fucking with people because that's all he does in the comics. Yeah, that's all he does in the comics. Like, if you're a homeless person, he's gonna fuck with you. If you're one of those dogs, he's gonna beat your ass. Heathcliff is the anti-Garfield.
I have to agree with you. Heathcliff is a Garfield that actually doesn't mind getting his paws dirty. Point.
I mean, where Garfield just sits there and eats and fucks with Odie and that cute kitten that John adopted, like Heathcliff doesn't fuck. Like Heathcliff may be orange with bands on him, but Heathcliff don't be fucking around. Like even the cartoon we had when we were kids, Heathcliff and the Junkyard Cats. Heathcliff didn't fuck around. Heathcliff was it's in the theme song. He terrorized the neighborhood. Like the dogs acted like Heathcliff was Debo from Friday. it's like, oh shit, it's Heathcliff. It's my black punk. It's like, oh shit, I'm not fucking with you, Heathcliff. Don't lie. I'm not lying, Heathcliff. I don't have any money. But yeah, I would love a Heathcliff video game. Make it like a beat 'em up. Just have that dude running around beating the shit out of people. That would be hilarious.
I can honestly say that we could at least agree on that much.
But that's my opinion.
I'm not sure any other comic characters. So
I mean, there's tons of them. I mean, there's already been Where's Waldo video games, but most of those were terrible. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
Most of the Where's Waldo shit was terrible. Let's see, what would be a good... We've never gotten a good Popeye the Sailor Man video game. And remember, Popeye the Sailor originally began as a comic book character.
Yeah. And if I remember right, the only game he ever got was way back in the Atari days.
No, there's more games than that, but they were in Japan. Like there was a Popeye the Sailor game on the NES. There was a Popeye the Sailor game in the arcades. There was one on the SNES that was like a board game, but when you landed on a level, it turned into like a traditional side scroller. And I think there was a port of that or like a sequel to that on the Game Boy Advanced. But we've never gotten like a proper, like big, like put some money behind it video game based on Popeye the Sailor. It hasn't happened. I don't know why.
Huh. It's clear Popeye's been shelved by a lot of people in multiple media.
I mean, Genndy Tartakovsky was trying to make a Popeye the Sailor animated film, and there was some test footage that they did of the opening of it, and it did not look very good. And I like Genndy Tartakovsky, but I'm like, dude, you don't have the spirit of Popeye in this shit at all. Whatsoever.
Yeah, as I said, Popeye gets shafted a lot in all kinds of media. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what I would do. That's, a Popeye the Sailor video game would be awesome. Maybe make it into like a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania style game. Or even better, make it a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania beat-em-up.
A Metroidvania beat-em-up.
Yes.
Popeye the Sailor.
Yes. I say 2D side-scrolling because if you do 2D side-scrolling, you can make it kind of like that Fleischer rotoscoping style, like kind of like animated. You could do the animation style kind of like Cupboy.
Cuphead?
Yeah, Cuphead. Yeah, Cuphead. I think because that's the closest you're going to get to that classic animation style in a gameplay format. But don't make it ball-crushingly hard like Cuphead, because Cuphead is ball-crushingly hard.
I was about to say, that's putting it politely of how hard Cuphead is. Because if I remember right, Cuphead would kindly lay out the red carpet for you before slamming you into that carpet, blasting holes into your rear end, rolling you in that carpet, taking you into a car trunk, taking that ride down to the river, and then throwing you in that river. I think that's how Cuphead works.
Well, I mean, okay, there's difficulty where there's difficulty where learning how the game having a different way of doing it, and you learning how to overcome the difficulty is part of the gameplay challenge. And once you master the gameplay systems, the game gets a lot easier. And then there's games that are just hard And Cuphead is like that in certain parts. Like the beginning of Cuphead is really hard. But once you get to the end of the game, like fighting the devil's easy. Even on hard mode, the devil is easy in Cuphead. It's kind of sad. Like all these bosses are way tougher than the devil.
Yeah.
Even when you're down to about 3 platforms, that's
no, the devil.
I think that was
ouch.
I think that was supposed to be kind of like an inside joke. The fact that the last boss is easier than the others.
Yeah. I mean, that's like with Cuphead, really the difficulty in Cuphead is like you only like for one thing, like the difficulty in Cuphead comes in trying to get an S ranking on every level. Which in order for you to get an S ranking at every level, you have to master parrying, you have to master your dash avoidance maneuver. You have to master all the gameplay mechanics in order to get an S rank on every single level. And by the time, like really, Dice Man is harder than the devil, to be honest with you, because if the dice don't land the way you want them to, you're gonna have to go through a gauntlet of other enemies, of boss level enemies, just to get to Dice Man. Yeah, Dice Man is way harder.
That's before. I was gonna say, and that's before you remember that he probably could send you right back to start, and you have to fight those peeps all over again.
No, you don't. No, in the Dice Man level, every boss you land on and defeat, even if he sends you back to the start, if you land on that square again, they don't respawn. You just skip the battle, and you go back to the map and hit the dice again, spin the dice again. So it's really not roll the dice again. So it's really like it's like the difficulty of Dice Man is hitting the dice so that you can get to him as quickly as possible without fighting a gauntlet of bosses. And once again, if your dice rolling ability is not very good, or the dice just roll in a way where it's not very helpful, what you'll find is that you'll run a gauntlet, and if your mastery of the gameplay skills of parrying, dodging, saving up your special so that you can use it to do a massive damage to the boss when you can, if you haven't mastered those basic abilities, Dice Man is really hard. The gauntlet of enemies you have to face to get to Dice Man is harder if you aren't really, if you haven't mastered those basic abilities and you're not trying to get an S rank, Dice Man is harder. The devil's easy, though. The devil, even on hard mode, is a joke. So, oh well. Anyway, I think we've exhausted... unless you guys have any other comic book character that you're like, I wish this character had a game about him. They haven't, though. And no, I'm not going with Marmaduke. Fuck that dog.
Good point, because if anything, I was going to say, somebody's going to say that dog.
Marmaduke? Where's my Marmaduke game? Beetle Bailey? Yeah, I bet everyone thought I was gonna do like conventional comics. No, I did like Sunday Funny comics. So next is the PS5 redesign. So apparently the redesign of the PS5 is the slim PS5 is the reason they managed to slim it down is because they basically gave it a smaller heatsink.
And if anything, that's a little bit of a worry, because, well, heat is usually a thing that could kill certain electronics.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't say which kind, but certain.
No, any electronic heat, any mechanical device through its usage builds up heat. And if it doesn't have a way to efficiently dispel this heat, it kills your electronics. So basically, I mean, like if you have a car and it doesn't, and its coolant system is fucked and it produces too much heat, it fries your car and it breaks down. If you have a blender and the motor and you run it continuously, the motor produces heat and it can burn out. If you have a computer and you don't have an efficient cooling system for what the components are inside of it, it can burn out. Heat is the enemy of your electronics. Coolant is just as important as the engine that's driving whatever it is that device it is. So the fact that they're having everyone has already said that the PS5 gets kind of hot anyway. So now you're basically making a smaller heatsink, and this would be one thing if they were making a smaller heatsink for the PS5 and it was 3 years out and they've come up with more efficient technology has come out. This is a redesign because they want to be able to pack more PS5s onto the container ships from where the shit's being for sales. Like they're like we're gonna make smaller PS5s so we can put more of them in on the pallets and therefore ship more units. And it's cheaper for us to make because the material that you're that's probably costing them money making bigger coolant arrays for the CPU, GPU. So I don't know. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? The PS5.
That's a bit
creating a potential Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death overheating situation.
As I was about to say, that's a bit worrying because if it overheats, well, there's going to be some refunds to be asked for, and well, I can only imagine how PlayStation will handle such a refund call when we saw what happened when Xbox 360 had their version of this. It wasn't pretty. At least by what I recall.
I don't know, Kenosha, you have any thoughts on it?
No, I mean, I guess they just want more PS5s out there.
As I said, hopefully PlayStation will know how to handle. It'll be interesting to see how PlayStation handles what Microsoft handled when they had a heating system problem. And by how I know, 360, they didn't handle it so well.
No, they did not. People always forget that when the 360 first started, when the Red Ring of Death first started, Microsoft did everything in their power to put as many barriers in the way of people, replacing their 360s. Because they knew that they had basically they had rushed the thing out so that they could basically get so they get the shit out,
Yeah. And eventually they had to put a replacement policy in. I can only imagine.
Well, most electronic devices, computers, consoles, I think you have a 6 months to a year warranty, where if something goes wrong, you can get a replacement. That's standard. But Microsoft knew that the Xbox 360, that they had basically cut corners in order to get it out to market before the PS3. And so they knew, engineers had told them, hey, if you do this, there's going to be a heat issue. And I'll be damned, within 3 to 4 months after the Xbox 360 launched, you're hearing, like, it probably had happened before that, but enough people it had happened to that it was like the Red Ring of Death was a major issue with the device. And Microsoft, like, people forget, when it first came out, Microsoft fought tooth and nail not to replace those 360s, because they knew if they had to replace those 360s that they were going to be on the hook and they were going to lose a fuck ton of money. Eventually, they just had to eat that, because they had to eat that cost.
And keep in mind that the 360 was where Xbox really started to show what it could do, but also, well, it also came out with the Red Ring.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the heat. The reason that a lot of those 360s were red ringing was because of the shit soldering that was done on the consoles. The shit soldering that was done because Microsoft was like, okay, if we spend more money to put in better soldering and a better heat
heat sink
dispensation device on these consoles, that's going to cost us 6 months, maybe a year to redesign this and add this into the assembly. We can't do that because we want to beat the PS3 to the market. So we're gonna put this shitty soldering job in, and it'll whatever happens.
Is worse than the first timers. Oh boy.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. But the reason I'm saying this is because potentially, if like the 360 wasn't doing nearly the amount of shit that the PS5 is doing. Like the PS5 has an SSD, I think M2 SSD inside of it. For those of you who don't know, M.2 SSDs produce a lot of heat. Okay, you can't have something that small doing that much and not produce a lot of heat. So it produces a lot of heat. Then they're giving you a smaller heat sink. There's just it's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
It's a nightmare situation for any electronics lover.
So, and here's the thing: there's going to be people who are going to be running out to get a PS5 because they want to play those new PS5 exclusives, which isn't a lot. But I mean, if you really want to play Ratchet and Clank, which I mean, that game looks good, even though I'm not really,
feeling it.
No, the game looks good. The game looks good, and if I could get my hands on a PS5 for market value and not scalper value, I'd spend was it $5.99 to get one. But unfortunately, plus tax, so like $6.50, $6.60. But unfortunately, like you can't get a PS5 unless you go on eBay and spend over $1,000. And I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't give my mother $1,000. Well, I'd give my mother $1,000, but I wouldn't give my girlfriend $1,000. Okay, so that tells you how much I'm willing to spend on a PS5.
That's just as dangerous, isn't it?
What, that scalpers are getting to it? I mean, scalpers are going to do whatever the hell they want to do.
As in, it's as dangerous to give somebody $1,000 as it is to give your girlfriend $1,000.
Pardon me?
It's dangerous to give a scalper $1,000 as it is dangerous to give your girlfriend $1,000.
No, it's fair enough to give my girlfriend $1,000 because I know where she lives, and if some shit jumps off, I can get it back. Whereas a scalper, there's not much you can really do. If a scalper takes your money, you're just SOL, and that's just the way it is. So, anyone else have anything else they want to say about the PS5 redesign before we move on to the next topic? Yay, nay, is this going to entice you to get a PS5?
I was gonna make the joke that if things heat up even more for PS5, get the marshmallows out. I'm sorry, that was a bad one.
Okay. Kenoshi, anything you want to say before we move on to the next topic?
No, I'm good.
All right, here we go with the next topic, which is Starfield, as we all know, is an Xbox and PC exclusive because Microsoft owns Bethesda, their first party studio now. But Sony fanboys don't seem to be able to get that shit through their heads because they're angry that Starfield is a Microsoft and PC exclusive. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
It's time to get over it. That's what.
Man, I don't know, man. I want to be able to play. I have a PlayStation 4. I should be able to play Mario on my PlayStation 4. I know, even though Mario is on a competing platform, it should be on the PlayStation because of reasons. Just because. Damn the consequences.
Brothers sparring.
I'm being facetious, by the way.
Of course.
I'm not serious. I recognize that consoles are that exclusives are called exclusives because they are exclusive to a platform. And especially first party exclusives. You're never going to see Mario on someone else's platform. You're never going to see Halo on the Switch. You're never going to see Halo on a PlayStation system. Why? Because Microsoft owns that IP. It's theirs. They can do whatever the fuck they want to with it. If Microsoft wants to take that IP and shove it up their ass, they can do it because it's theirs. If Microsoft says to Bethesda, okay, release Starfield. Okay, now we're going to take Starfield and shove it up Theodore Howard's ass. They can do that. Why? Because they own the IP. I know that's a hard concept for Sony fanboys to understand because Sony doesn't really have any,
exclusives.
Well, they have exclusives, but they don't have shit like, okay, even though I think most of Bethesda's games are overrated shit, like, people will buy a console for a Bethesda game. People who aren't into PC gaming will buy. If someone says, hey, I want to get into Skyrim and I don't want a whole bunch of bullshit, like, someone will say, and I want to play mods, but I don't want to install them on PC. People say, okay, get an Xbox One. Because you can basically get some mods on the Xbox One version of Skyrim. Like, if someone said to me, okay, which version of Skyrim should I get on PC? I would say get the Xbox One version of Skyrim, because then you have, like, of all the consoles, it has the biggest mod support, which fixes a lot of the base issues of a Bethesda game. I would say if you like the Switch version, it's nice, but it's like the same fucking bugs that are in the basic version of Skyrim are on the Nintendo Switch version of Skyrim. Mostly because they didn't even port the updated cool version of Skyrim to the Switch. It's the same shit that came out like 9 years ago. They couldn't even be bothered to update the code and fix the bugs. But that's Bethesda. They never update the code or fix the bugs. They're lazy bastards like that. But I mean, that's Bethesda, folks. What else can we say? But
it just works. It just works. Oh God.
Sometimes it just works. Yeah, okay, Ted. I'll take your word for it. I'll believe it when I see it. Like Starfield. I'm going to keep it real. I will probably wind up getting Starfield. I'm not getting it day one. I'm going to wait like a year and a half out until it's on sale on PC, and then I'll get it. I am not getting that shit day one. I'll let other people take that jump on that sword. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I guess with that being said, I guess we can move on to Psychonauts 2 talk. Psychonauts talk. So
this is mostly you two, so I'll hold off for now.
So I've been playing Psychonauts and I've been enjoying it. There's been a lot of stuff going on that basically is kind of making me a bit. I'm a bit. How can I put this? Like, there's some characters that I suspect to be the mole.
Yeah. Yeah, I had just gotten into Insight's mind when I went back to playing the first game. So I'll let him not, so I can't really comment on too much after.
Yeah, I can't really either. So I don't know who the mole is. I have people that I suspect, but I don't know exactly who it is. What I will say about the game is this. I've really been enjoying it. I like it. I like the fact that they go more in depth about Raz's family. Like, the irony of ironies, his mother hates psychics, but her husband and all of her kids are psychic. That's weird.
Yeah.
Here's what I do know. I do know it's pretty fucking obvious that the lady who you like when you go into Ford Cruller's mind, his mindscape for the first time, and they show the founders of the Psychonauts, and there was like a seventh lady who joined. That lady is the one who became Maligula, because her psychic abilities is hydrokinesis, and it's obvious that like Maligula's big thing is water manipulation, so that makes sense.
So she was obviously the one that cursed Raz's family.
Yeah, because there's this thing where like water is their fatal weakness. Kind of weird, but I'll go with it. I'll let it slide. But
like eating the Gungan fruit, can't swim anymore. Or eating the cursed fruit from One Piece, you can't swim anymore.
I guess. But anyway, Psychonauts 2, great game. It fixes a lot of issues of the first game. It's so much more enjoyable and easy to get into.
Controls are a lot better. One of the things about the first game where the controls are a bit rough.
Yeah, the first game, the controls are a bit rough. The PC port, depending on which version of the PC port you get, the good old games version of the game runs pretty well. The Steam version runs like ass, depending on which what your control.
Yeah, I was about to end the game, and then it crashed. So I was like, I'm just gonna watch the ending on YouTube.
Yeah, Psychonauts. if you're gonna play the original Psychonauts, I would say get the GOG version, because the GOG version has been optimized to run on newer computers better than the Steam version. Like, there's just certain games that run better off of GOG. Like Fallout New Vegas runs better on GOG if you have the GOG version than the Steam version. Shit like that. But yeah, Psychonauts 2, pretty good. The writing I've been enjoying a lot. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I've been enjoying it. The only thing that I call a little bit, the only issue that I have with Psychonauts 2 thus far is there's a lot of areas that you go to and you don't have the psychic ability yet in order to get a collectible or open up a new area, and it's like, shit, it's right there. It's right there, but I can't get it because I don't have that psychic ability yet, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, they're pulling a Banjo-Kazooie. Although, the code's kind of like that in the first game, but not as much as it is in the second game.
Yeah, it's a little like, oh man, there's a MacGuffin right there that I can get. If only I had a psychic ability to get it. And because they nerfed levitation, you can't really use levitation like you used to in order to get it. You have to get a psychic ability. So they nerfed levitation so that you have to use your psychic abilities more. I get it. They don't want to break progression, so I understand. But overall, was the game worth a 16-year wait? To me, yes. I know some people would be like, no, I liked it for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. A game sequel comes out 16 years later and it isn't completely a broken piece of shit. You know what game I'm talking about that took 10 years to... That was 10 years in development.
I mean, there's a lot of them. There's Duke Nukem Forever. There's mostly Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
Duke Nukem Forever had a 10+ year development cycle, and when it finally came out, it was bad.
Yeah.
You know, when you have that long a development cycle, there's no excuse for something being that bad. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Oh, so with that being said, you have any questions about Psychonauts 2, Jewel? Anything you want to know? Anything that might make you want to buy it?
To be honest with you, I'm kind of curious of how tricky the platforming is. As in, are the controls at least a consistent and not hyper floaty in some cases?
No, I would say the first Psychonauts. I would say if I had to give it a score, I would give I would say the controls in the first Psychonauts for platforming were like a 75, maybe an 80. I would say this game is like a 90, 92. It's much better in this game.
Okay. The reason why I asked is because I remember that there's some really tightrope platforming that you have to do on some of those levels, and
yeah, this game is a
platforms and
the automatic
and the characters are a problem. I remember, right?
Well, that's only in Psychonauts. In Psychonauts, that's only in the meat circus. The meat circus is the part where everyone's like, "Oh man, this platforming is terrible." Because in the other levels, it's not really that big of an issue. Psychonauts 2, I haven't really seen an area where the platforming is terrible. Mostly because in Psychonauts 2, you have most of your traversal abilities early on in the game. Like, you can wall jump easily early on in the game. You can use levitation easily early on in the game. You can, your hover ability early on in the game. You get like one ability early, shortly after the game really opens up. That's like a dive that lets you extend your jump a little bit, which can cancel out momentum. So when you fall, you don't take damage, kind of like Mario in Super Mario 64.
Which will evade fall damage.
Yes, negates fall damage. Now, it doesn't do it for Mario in Super Mario 64. It does do it in this game. Like a dive, you can do it at the end of a jump. That if you're about to hit the ground and you do that dive, you negate it gives you, it also extends your jump a little bit. So, I mean, it's like, this game has a lot of stuff going on. And there's a lot of areas to explore. So I'm quite happy with it. I think it's going to be pretty good. But anyway, that's my own personal opinion. Yeah, I mean, like, the platforming isn't going to be quite as good as what you would see in a, like a Nintendo, developed, 3D platformer. Like, like Tokyo EAD. Like if you're looking like at Galaxy 1 and 2 level platforming, nah, bruh. But that's rare.
Yeah, I mean, you're not. It's rare that you're gonna get a game that's that.
Yeah, platforming of that level, you're not gonna get. I would put this game in terms of its platforming. I would put it at I would put it at the level of Banjo-Kazooie in terms of its platforming.
And a lot of people like Banjo-Kazooie, so that's not a bad choice.
Yeah, I mean Banjo-Tooie has better platforming than Banjo the first game, but Banjo-Kazooie like really refines a lot of the platforming from the game that it took a lot of its cues from, which is Mario 64. So, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
did I lose you guys?
No. I thought someone was going to say something else. I was going to let someone talk before we move on to the final topic. So our final topic is a SWTOR sequel. So there's been rumors that there's going to be a Star Wars: The Old Republic sequel because the amount of content, like they're reaching the end game in content that it can reasonably add to to an MMO.
Go on.
So, with that being said, let's wax poetic about what they should add in a new SWTOR sequel.
Probably good ship battles if you ever trigger one.
The ship battles in the original SWTOR were okay. I mean, they were basically on-rail shooting sequences. The Starfighters sucked, though. The Starfighter sequences in SWTOR are terrible.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I was remembering that there's needed to be some improvements. I think another improvement would probably be trying to be sure that the Jedi class feels like Jedi without being orb crushingly hard.
Pardon? Could you repeat that?
To be able to become a Jedi, but not so easily, but not so hard that hurts your orbs.
It's not difficult to become a Jedi in SWTOR. You literally choose that class and you go through their class storyline. The class storylines are actually pretty fun in SWTOR.
If I remember right, in one version of Star Wars, if I got it right,
no.
You had to look all over for certain cubes in order to get away to.
No, you're thinking of Star Wars Galaxies. You're thinking of Star Wars Galaxies. That's a completely different game. Star Wars Galaxies was an MMO that was before SWTOR.
Okay, I was trying to at least be careful about it because of anything, I know that there's various versions of Star Wars to remember, and some of them were not good.
I mean, basically, you just have to up your wisdom a lot in Star Wars Galaxies, and then follow a series of holocrons in order to to start on the Force path, and then you could choose to be light side or dark side as you went further down that path. It wasn't really that difficult if you knew how to cheese the meta game, which by the time most people got in the Star Wars galaxy, you could go on forums dedicated to that, and they would tell you exactly what you had to do in order to become a Jedi. SWTOR takes that out of it because the Jedi is just a general class that you choose. Now, I would say that it would probably be better if they did a SWTOR sequel. If, like, yes, you could choose to be a Jedi warrior or a Jedi guardian or a Jedi consul or a Jedi shadow or whatever, the pure Force classes. But if you also were like, okay, I'm a scout, I'm a smuggler, I'm a trooper, I'm a this person, whatever. And then once you reach a certain level, that character can also become a Jedi or Sith. That would make more sense than, you just kind of sticking to what you do. Because the problem with SWTOR right now is that it's basically a World of Warcraft game with a Star Wars skin with a better storyline. And if that doesn't bother you, then, knock yourself out.
Good point.
But, Star Wars is better. Like, we've had better Star Wars games that weren't just World of Warcraft clones. So, like, we've seen better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There has been worse, but there has been better versions too. So that kind of evens things out.
Like
Though keep in mind of who's making it.
Well, it's EA. Yeah, it's EA and BioWare Austin.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, right now BioWare Austin has a better track record than the other parts of BioWare. Let's keep it real. Because remember, the other parts of BioWare, the 3 games that have come out under the other parts of BioWare is Dragon Age Inquisition, which was underwhelming at best, Mass Effect Andromeda, and Anthem. And no, I'm not including the Mass Effect Legendary Edition because that's a remaster of something that already existed. It's not a new game. So their new games that have come out over the last few years is Dragon Age Inquisition, which is shit. Mass Effect Andromeda, which was underwhelming at best. And Anthem, which was also shit. So...
Go.
I mean, it could. I mean, it's your choice. Like BioWare Austin. I know people like to talk shit about BioWare Austin because SWTOR came out. It had a decent install base, and then immediately because they didn't have enough content, the install base started dropping. I was one of those people that left because I basically maxed out the 2 characters I wanted to play as, and I said, fuck it. And I left. And I didn't come back for 13 years. I just now came back this year. So, because I wanted to play an MMO and I wanted to play something Star Wars, but I didn't want to, like the story mode in SWTOR is actually really kind of fun and interesting. So, there you go, folks. But, I mean, it's still pretty good. I always thought it was pretty good. I know some people would be like, "Oh, how could you play that?" It's very easy. Very easy to play that. I liked it. But what do you guys think about that? Yes, no, maybe so?
Iffy because of who's working on it, but otherwise I feel that there's at least a chance that it might come to the mainstream again.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I really want to see, I think they need to open up the class system in the next game and not make it just a World of Warcraft clone. It doesn't make sense that It doesn't make sense that someone. It doesn't make sense except for Jedi, because they focus primarily on lightsaber dueling. It doesn't make sense that a smuggler wouldn't know how to also use a melee weapon. It makes no sense. That's kind of stupid, actually.
I was gonna say that's it's like somebody not knowing how to ride a bike but able to do motorcycle.
Well, I mean, it's like saying that. I mean, let's use a real world equivalent. It's like saying a soldier who uses an M4, M11, an M15 doesn't also know how to use a knife, a combat knife in combat. Makes no goddamn sense because there's going to be a point where their M15 might be out of bullets, or they might be saving their M15 ammo for bigger targets, and so they'll have to use their sidearm or traps or a knife. Doesn't make sense they'd only use one weapon. Whatever. You know, or even take it down to a lower level. There's a bug in my house. Yeah, I could use spray, or I could stomp on the motherfucker. It's
one. One is the less harmful one for your lungs.
I guess so. But my point being is this. They need to open up the class system so that class skills aren't so strictly binding to certain character builds. Now they kind of get around that in the game by saying, well, in the game you have the legacy system where essentially, like, as your legacy gets better, you as you complete the story levels for different characters, you can basically like those characters get tied to the legacy of your character, which in turn means that they become like they can share certain abilities across everyone in that legacy. So, for example, I have a character who's part of the legacy who's a smuggler, but because they are the son of the founder of the legacy, who is a Jedi, every time I use my passive buff ability, it also gives me the passive buff for being a Jedi, which is kind of cool. It's a legacy of the legacy system. It's a part of the legacy system. So that's how they kind of. That's how. I mean, the problem with the game is that BioWare Austin basically used the Hero 3 engine, which the game feels like a clone. Like, the problem with SWTOR is that SWTOR is a really good. It's a really good single player MMO. It's a really good single player RPG with a lot of different playable character classes, but the base combat is trash. That's the flaw. But anyway, with that being said, I think we've milked it. Unless you guys have anything you want to add about what you would want from a SWTOR sequel. Nothing? Okay then. So I guess we can get to the final topic, which is unpopular opinions. Who wants to go first?
For once, I can actually use this for opinion that probably is going to be popular, but not for the right reasons. But here goes. Somehow, a game series I like can be rated adults only for having virtual gambling, like Persona 5 and Pokemon Generations 1 through 4 in certain regions, while on the other end of the spectrum, FIFA 19, 20, 21, so on, they get away with a child's rating, Peggy 3, even though it has loot boxes that allow you to use your real money in order to get virtual money in order to spend to win and try to gain characters. I consider that wrongful BS.
That's a fair point. But I think that EA put a lot of money into it. You know what I'm saying?
Considering how they treated Dungeon Keeper?
Yeah, I think they put a lot of money to. I think they put a lot of lobbyist money behind it to say, well, we put a NDA, we put a EULA in front of these games, so people a EULA that most people don't even fucking read the EULAs. They don't. They scroll through them. They click the OK button, and then they click the I read it button, and then they click OK so they can play their game. Most people do not read the EULAs. So people need to understand that shit. That these companies, look, they're gonna do whatever they need to do in order to protect their bottom line, and damn the consequences. That's just how it is. And the sooner people understand that, the sooner they'll get it. But you're right. It is despicable that that kid games, and not, although the Persona series isn't really a kid game, but like games like Persona are considered adults only because they have gambling and profanity and drug use. But then you have a game that basically like FIFA, Battlefield, shit like that. Like the latest Battlefield is I think has no single player, is all multiplayer, which means basically it's built for microtransactions. And yet I bet it's going to be rated T for teen. Anyway, Kenoshi, you have an unpopular opinion?
No, not this week.
All right. I have two unpopular opinions. One is about the current gen. I would say that aside from Nintendo, Microsoft and Sony have nothing really interesting to offer for the 9th gen. Nintendo's offering something. Just to me, I don't think it's very interesting. Like, hey, you can play portable games on the go. I don't want to play. You can play console games on the go. It's like I don't want to play console games on the go. So to me, that's not interesting. I know there's a huge subset of people that really like that idea. So I'm not poo-pooing that particular
fighter
gimmick. That console feature. To me, it's not interesting. I don't want to play console games on the go. But I know a lot of people, that is a big thing for them. So that's good for them. But it's at least something. Microsoft and Sony have nothing interesting to offer for the 9th gen, except slightly better graphics. And all three of them are not offering, like, all three of them aren't doing anything that's really unique or that could not have been done on last gen hardware. There isn't a single game on the Switch where I'm like, yeah, this couldn't have been done on the Wii U. There isn't a single game I've seen on the Xbox Series X where I'm like, yeah, this couldn't have been done on the Xbox One. And there isn't a game I've seen running on the PS5 where I'm like, this couldn't have been done last gen. Would it have been as pretty? Maybe not, but it could have been. It could have been run. I think gamers are getting shafted. All around for all of the 9th gen consoles. I think that the gimmicks that they're offering, like, with the Nintendo, it's okay, well, you can play your console games on the go. That's cool if you absolutely have to game everywhere, but I mean, for me, I'm like, I don't need to game that. I'm not like a junkie. I gotta play Mario, baby. Look, I like Mario, but I don't need to play it wherever, Then you have, Microsoft with, okay, well, we have xCloud and Game Pass. Game Pass is a cool idea, but the only flaw is you don't need a Microsoft system to use Game Pass. You can play it on any Windows compatible device. You know, if you have a tablet, you can probably get Game Pass running on the shit if you can get the app on it. And Sony, I don't know what the fuck Sony's doing. I really don't know. I don't know what they offer. Not like there is no good reason to own a PS5. None.
Yeah, there's not
I mean, there's no game on the PS5 where I'm like, man, this game is a good reason to own a PS5. There's nothing that the PS5 is doing where I'm like, man, this couldn't have been done last gen. And I know some people say, well, DualSense. Okay. Not really impressive. I guess it's cool, but not impressive. I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. I'm unimpressed. I'm unimpressed with all of the 9th gen consoles. Just on a subjective level, and the other two, I'm just like, this is not anything. This ain't anything special.
I fully agree there.
I mean, look, the exclusives that are on the Switch are great. I recently booted up my Switch to play Ninja Warriors again, because it's a Switch exclusive. It's only on the Switch. It's a great game. It's a 2D beat 'em up where you play as initially three cyborg warriors beating the shit out of other cyborgs and people too. It's pretty fun. But I mean, it's not a game where I'm like, oh man, this could only have been done on the Switch. And I'm aware that, you know, since the 6th gen, especially in the 7th gen, the graphical leap between generations has gotten slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. But I don't even care about the graphics because I've been playing a lot of old games on my system too. I don't care about graphics. What I care about is what new gameplay mechanics are you adding to the genre? Like, what new shit have you came out? Like, you know, like you couldn't have done Mario 64 on the SNES. But you probably could have done Mario Odyssey on the Wii U. So, anyway, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. It's unpopular opinion. My second opinion is not so much about Nintendo, it's about Pokemon. I have had more fun with Pokemon knockoffs or Pokemon fan games or Pokemon inspired games than I have had with a mainline Pokemon game in a long time. So if you want to play a really good Pokemon game, but you're tired of the lack of imagination from the Pokemon company, go play a Pokemon fan game or games inspired like Pokemon, like Koromon, Tim, Disc Monsters, Monster Rancher, stuff like that. Anyway, those are my two unpopular opinions. I guess that's the end. Anything you guys want to pimp up before we wrap things up? Nothing? Okay.
No.
All right, so that's the end of the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. We ended early today because, you know, small topics. So that's the end of the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and
Don't forget to have responsibly.
All right. Peace. Good night. Don't let the
Laters.
bedbugs bite.